If you're moving to Boston this year or somewhere in the suburbs of Boston and you're wondering, are people still moving here? Did COVID kind of mess things up, or is Boston still a popular relocation destination or just a popular place to move to for people coming to the area? The answer is yes, it definitely is, and probably always will be a popular place to move to for some reasons I'm gonna go over in this video. Some of them are just kind of general, but some of them are very unique and specific to Boston that make it a great place to move to. So let's get into it. Hey there, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the Living Boston channel. My name is Jacob Peistrup. Glad to have you here. And hey, if you're moving to Boston, whether it's the city, the suburbs, if you're buying a house or buying a condo this year and you want some help with that process of adjusting to the real estate market, some local guidance, and just figuring out where you fit in the Boston area, send me an email, send us a text message. Let's get in touch. Working with my clients through the YouTube channel is what I love about being in real estate and selling real estate here in Boston. Now, in this video, I'm gonna go over some of the really big reasons why people these days are moving to Boston. Now, trust me, I have built my entire business around people who are moving to and from Boston. Like, that is literally my job, and that is why I love it. I am your boots on the ground. Like, I see changes happening all the time. I pay attention to what people are doing, why people are moving to Boston, because, it's kind of like I get to shape the future of Boston. I see where it's going because I am constantly working with people who are coming to this city. So I see where it's headed. I kind of have a good grasp of why people are choosing Boston these days. So if that's you, or you're still deciding, maybe this video will give you some clarity. The first one might seem a little bit obvious, but I promise there's a little bit more substance to it, and that is the economy. Obviously, with any major city, a strong and healthy economy is what brings new people to the area. Boston is kind of unique. We have a very strong, very diverse economy here. There are plenty of jobs that bring people here. There are new companies all the time that are being started in Boston or moving to Boston. Now, the reason this is so important for Boston is that we have a bunch of thriving industries. Now, I don't mean we have like one or two sectors where we're pretty good. I mean, we have like a dozen plus industries where we just dominate. Like, Boston blows it out of the water. We are, top in the world for several industries in Boston, and that is why people come here. We're not just a city that's known for its tech or its healthcare or its finance. We're known for all the above, and that is why so many people from every career, every industry move to Boston. Education, Boston is like the university capital of the world. Healthcare, again, top of the world. Have you been to the hospitals in Boston? Trade, we are right on the ocean. We have dozens of ports here in Boston. Biotech, finance, manufacturing, IT, legal services. Like, these are just some of the sectors where Boston really just crushes it. We have a lot of really strong companies here and a lot of people working for these companies who are coming into Boston because we have such a strong economy that is rooted in a lot of different sectors that are always going to have an important role in the economy. Boston is not a city that's just known for having one really good university or one really good hospital in town. Like, we have a bunch of high-performing universities, hospitals, companies across all industries in Boston, and that is why it's always going to be a very strong and healthy market in the Boston metro. Naturally, because of that, the next reason that it's a popular city to move to is because Boston is very international. It is very global. Let me tell you from personal experience working with everyone who is coming to Boston, it is a global city. It is a melting pot from countries. Pretty much every country in the world has, some kind of role in Boston. We are a very international city. People come to Boston from every country in the world because they have a job here, or to send their kids to college here, or because they have friends in London and LA Boston's in the middle, but New York City isn't really their style. So what I'm saying is that Boston brings a lot of international people here for a bunch of different reasons, thanks to the strong economy and strong sectors we have here. Just to give you perspective, I mean, I work with recent college grads who are coming to Boston for their first job after school. I work with, corporate executives relocating with their entire family. And I have people coming to Boston, bringing their company and their business with them because it just makes sense for their plan to call Boston home for the next couple of years. And that is the coolest part of my job, is getting to hear everyone's stories and really just hear why they made the decision to call Boston home for the next couple of years. And the thing with Boston is that, yes, it's an expensive city, but when you compare it to some of the most expensive in the world, I mean Paris, London, Hong Kong, Tel Aviv, New York City, LA, like Boston is a bargain compared to what you have to pay in some of those other cities. So for buyers and people coming here internationally who own in different countries or who operate their businesses at different levels, Boston is a steal, and it's a great investment because it is always going to have a strong market with lots of different reasons that bring people to this city. Now, trust me, I'm not saying Boston is cheap. People definitely do not move here because they can get a massive house or a massive condo for little money. No. People move to Boston for the opportunities and the connections. People move to Boston because it is a strategic move for the next chapter in their life. And another really big reason, especially these days with moving to Boston, is that post-COVID, there are a lot of opportunities across the world. So people are free to move wherever they want. If they can work from home, they can work remotely. Suddenly, the world is an opportunity for you if you can get a job on the other side of the planet and live in Boston or live somewhere else and still perform. I mean, that is a game changer for a lot of people. And especially with COVID, people left the city. Now these days, things are opening back up. And really, just recently did Boston start lifting their COVID mandates and the mask mandates to, return back to, much more normal compared to pre-COVID. Like, the city is really just recently starting to open back up and go back to normal. So with that, people are slowly coming back to the city. They want to live in the middle of the city where you got everything going on, and it no longer feels like you're just isolated in the city like we had during COVID, which is why people moved to the suburbs. Now they want to be in the city. They want to have that social life. They want to have those opportunities and those networks that you get from living in the city. And the last point I want to make is just, the investment in real estate, the strong housing market we've seen here in Boston after COVID. Obviously, we had a dip, especially in the city during the peak of COVID, but afterwards, it has been booming in and around Boston. Now, don't get me wrong, we were not one of those cities that saw this massive inflow of people during COVID, like Miami, Naples, Nashville, Dallas, Houston, Austin, like any of those cities that were kind of flooded by people from California or other parts of the country. We really didn't see that in COVID, but we are definitely seeing a strong market with people coming here from around the world, people in the city moving outside the city, people from outside the city moving into the city. We've had a strong housing market, lots of new development, new construction, lots of stuff that happened because, rates went down during COVID. That sparks development, that starts new construction, so there's lots of new stuff going on. Plus, again, I can't emphasize this enough, just owning an investment in a city like Boston that will always have an inflow of students, working professionals, new businesses, and new opportunities. That is why people invest in Boston and make the decision to purchase and live in Boston or around the city in the suburbs. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to sit here and romanticize Boston. There are definitely things that I don't love about it. It's ridiculously expensive, the weather sucks, people can be rude, the roads are god-awful, traffic sucks, it can be just a competitive market too with renters and buyers. But overall, am I glad I live here? Absolutely, there is no doubt. And this is coming from someone who is not from Boston. I am not born and raised in Boston. I, have lived here for years. I lived here as a kid, but I moved to Boston in college. I came here for college from St. Louis, Missouri. Northeastern University, that is what brought me to Boston. And back then, when I moved to Boston, I saw it as, this international East Coast city with opportunities, networks, and just, a new lifestyle that I didn't have in the Midwest. And I'm not from a small, piece of farmland. Like, I'm from the suburbs of a Midwestern city. For me, I moved to Boston for a new chapter in my life, and that is what brought me to Boston. And look, if Boston isn't the right city for you, that is totally fine. Like, because of COVID, I feel like things have become so much easier to navigate from one city to the next so that everyone can find, where they're happy. And whether that means leaving Boston to go somewhere new or really thinking hard about, is Boston the right city for you? If it's not, that's totally fine. I wish you the best. I want you to find the city that makes you happy, because thanks to COVID, I feel like that is a lot easier nowadays than it ever was before. And Boston is not New York, we're not LA, we're not Miami, we're Boston. So if you're moving here expecting something like one of those cities, it's just not gonna offer that, and you might be disappointed. But if you are coming here and you are excited about moving to Boston, I gotta bring this full circle somehow. If you want help with the process of buying a house, buying a condo, signing a lease in Boston, especially, let me tell you, in this crazy, hectic market, post-COVID, it is ridiculous. But let's get in touch. Send over an email, send a text message if you want to work with me. I love the clients I get through the YouTube channel. Like I said, I can't speak highly enough about the people that I get to work with who moved to Boston. So if that sounds like you want to work together, let's get in touch. But until then, I hope to see you sometime soon in Boston. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next video right here on the Living Boston channel. Hope you take care and have a fantastic day.